could have written a whole dissertation on why this thing didn't work. And they actually connected me to Lion Guy, had a fun chat, and he said, well, but this is what our intern could do, or whatever his reason was, I don't even remember. And, of course, he wasn't ready to expand his budget. And that's the issue we almost always get. Oh, well, we don't have a budget for it. And how do we explain to people, hey, this is the wise investment if you get it done right the first time? What is your good answer to people, especially a nonprofit on a tight budget?
Yeah, well, I have an example of something like that happened with a prospect, and they just decided they were going to go the free route. They hired someone who was just out of art school to do their website. The person did a nice-looking site, but the whole thing was in Flash. So it turned out the client,
yes.
Yeah, it was in Flash, and Flash is just like a sealed box. You can't go in and edit it. Also, since then, search engine optimization has gotten, well, it didn't exist back then, but it is, a really important thing now, and you can't, Google can't search a Flash content. And with Flash, the entire website could, including your menus, everything is inside a box. So the client couldn't edit the website, and sure, they got the website for free, but then it was not functional for them because as soon as you're done, you have to go in and make changes. So it's not just this finished piece that you set up on a shelf or put on display. It's something that is constantly changing and evolving. They couldn't do that. So then they had to turn around and pay somebody to do the site, but immediately they had to get the site done again.
Yeah.
So it's a waste of time, a waste of resources. So yeah, it really should be done right to start with. And if you set out your expectations, then you can work with that and figure out what can you afford and how are you going to do it. One thing that some of the people I've worked with have done is to get a grant to help them specifically with building their website. But again, it can help to have that conversation. If you really don't know how much it's going to cost, talk to designers, talk to developers, find out what's involved, what the costs are, and then ongoing costs like maintenance and updates and things like that, so that you could possibly get some financial support to help out with it.
Okay, wait 1 second, because we're going to take a quick break. I just want to remind folks that today's show for Partners in Health and Biz is pre-recorded, so we're sorry you can't call in and ask Jennifer questions directly, but I will give you some info at the end for finding Jennifer Dyer, who is our guest today, from Jennifer Dyer Graphic Design, based in Baltimore, but serving clients all over the place. And, of course, about contacting Partners in Health and Business directly. But anyway, so you just gave a wise piece of information that even if you are a nonprofit and you're on a tight budget, there are ways to explore getting grant money, and nonprofits know how to explore this kind of thing even better than other types of health professionals that Partners in Health and Business is addressing today. So, okay, they get the grant money. How do they ask someone like you, what questions should they be asking to be sure that they're really getting the right person to work on their website? Because there are lots of people out there saying, oh, yeah, sure, I can do it, and it'll cost you $200, and we're all done, and everything's fine. How do you find people? What kind of questions should you ask when you do find them?
Well, I think you should look at the work that they have done before, and it helps to start out by doing your homework, I think. Look at websites that you like, that are ideally people who do the same type of work that you do. See how they solve the problems that you think you're going to have to solve on your site. How do they ask for donations? How do they present who their board members are? All that sort of thing. And then look at the designer's portfolio and talk with them about it and about how they solved the problems they did. I just think that having a good conversation with them, and make sure that the designer asks you a lot of questions. If they're just like, sure, I'm on it, then they haven't found out, they don't know you, I know that you can't have an in-depth understanding just from a simple conversation, but, the designer has to do their homework too. They should be asking you questions about your time frame and your goals and, just everything. They should be concerned about the scope of the project. How is it getting written? What kind of content are you going to need? Photos, artwork, downloads, whatever type of thing they should be asking you about. So you're kind of interviewing each other, and you should expect them to ask you questions. It will possibly be annoying because when you start the actual work at the design stage, the copy should be finished. And nobody wants to do that. They want to see pretty things. And the point of design is not to be pretty. It is to communicate just as much as you communicate through words. So the copy needs to be there. And you have to do your thinking about your brand, about your, whatever publications you already have, and think about what you want to accomplish with your website and be prepared to discuss that with the designer, and the designer should be asking you about that stuff. They should ask you about your budget up front and talk about what can be accomplished within whatever funds you have, because there are a lot of different ways to work with someone. They shouldn't just say, oh, well, that's just not possible with this budget. There's much that can be done, maybe not with that designer, but with another one. But, every problem can be solved. So they should be doing some troubleshooting and helping you along the way.
Yeah, and I would add in a couple of points, because when I do the custom content, I've done templates with web design, including my own website, which is my WM Medical Communications site. And since my work is mostly in health content, especially, it was not called custom content when I first wrote the AMA site, and even for Sears and other places. We didn't call it custom content. Hey, we need articles, we need reporting, or whatever. And now when we have this custom content and even the custom design, there are templates out there. And when you said look at the sites you like, the one thing I try and encourage people is, yes, show me the sites that you like and what's in there, both the design and, of course, the content. But I also ask them, well, do you want to look like everybody else? Because, you can pull up a template. I know one group, they specialize in nothing but dental sites. But every single dentist site looks like the next one. All right? They're, even the headshots of the staff or the doctors are not even in there. They're just regular, scrapbook stuff, type of designs or artwork that's stuck in, and it's good, it's okay, and if you're in a rush and on a really tight budget, that can work for you, but there are ways, as you just mentioned, for figuring out the budget. I like the point you make about you've got to have the copy. You must have that content, because from that you can draw the sitemap. Do you just need a couple of key pages, like the home page, a fundraising something or other page, and here's how to get in touch? Or do you really need, for various reasons, to add a few more main links or the sublinks? And that's why they talk to people, or they should be talking to people like you, Jennifer Dyer, and to me, Wendy Myeroff. As I said, WM Medical Communications is the work I'm doing when I'm not here on Partners in Health and Business. And so it's really good. What we also have to add in, and I know we're coming to closing time in a few minutes, and I want to give them all your contact information, but the other thing, just to add in a little bit at the end, we have to remind people, you and I have talked about this, Jennifer, that, okay, the site's up, it looks great, it's got the basic work done, and they say, that's it, we're done. There's nothing else we have to do. And you just mentioned business cards a little bit earlier. And I've talked to people, and I said, well, you don't think you need any handouts for print? Do you need a brochure? If you've got a nice-looking site, does the brochure now complement the site, if you're going to an exhibit or people are calling in for more information? Are you the kind of folks who would stand out if you actually had a blog, right? There are other things we have to remind them, you from the graphic side, me from the content side, and we put it together, that there are other elements to marketing even in this day and age. It's not all to rely on the website, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that a lot of, I guess a lot of folks have kind of lost sight of because it's convenient to put stuff online, but people remember and respect print more than they do digital stuff. Digital stuff just comes and goes. And if you need people to remember something, if you really want to make an impression, it helps to have a print thing. The difference between reading a book that you're holding versus reading a digital book, it really does make a difference. That sense of touch and the physical interaction, it makes a very strong impression.
Today's online books. I don't want one actor or author reading the book to me. I want to imagine the voices of each character and the scenery and all that. I can't stand audio books. Sorry. I know Captain Kirk and Captain Picard also read hardcovers, so, even with the equipment they had, for whatever reason, it didn't work. And especially, I think, we get drowned by emails, we get drowned by websites. I know people that I highly respect, and they have great advice for, let's say you're a nonprofit and you're giving people advice on other types of fundraising or a certain kind of incident, better ways to clean up the environment or whatever. You've got good, solid blogs going on, but not everybody's going to notice that stuff. And if you inundate them every single week, or I get one guy, he pops up every 3 days, and his advice is great, but he does get annoying.
Yeah.
So you have to know where to back off, whereas if they get even, I've done one-page newsletters that got such respect at continuing care facilities. We had the 3-hole punch in it, and they used them that way so they could leave them in a binder and keep people, the continuing care providers, could plow through, and some of it was clinical synopses. Hi, this study's occurred, and it tells us X, Y, Z. But we also used to put one small section on the page of here's some personal care advice, like getting your feet back into shape if you've been standing all day. So, print stuff doesn't have to be expensive, but it brings a certain extra sales tool that most places don't understand. When they're talking to the guy who has, quote, 5 years digital experience, a lot of them may be geniuses on web work and even SEO, which we haven't even gotten into here because most places, especially small ones, can't afford in-depth SEO, outside research or whatever. And we're not going to get into that today because it's a whole other topic. But people have got to, they respond better well. It's going to add to that optimization when they see something that not everybody else is supplying in your industry.
Yeah. And it doesn't necessarily, as you said, it doesn't have to be a big thing. It can be a postcard, just a mailer to remind people, about a campaign that you're working on or an upcoming event. You can also do stuff both physically and digitally, send out a print piece, but email the invitation to people who are email only. One of my clients, they have emails for a lot of people. Well, their clients actually just seem to divide between people for whom they have their email and people for whom they have a physical address. So they have to do both. If they're going to reach their entire audience, they have to do 2 types of pieces because they don't have all of that information about all of their people they're reaching out to.
Yeah, I met a woman who was and is a content provider at the National Institutes of Health Special Division called the NIA, the National Institute on Aging. And so, as you might guess, it's for America's aging and other aging